Guinaifen is a surprisingly good Fire Nihility 4-star character that was just released. In today's video, I would like to discuss how she compares with Luka and Sampo in Kafka's dot team and how she's different from Sampo and Luka in the sense that she can also be flexed in a Hypercarry team as a sub DPS and a debuffer. So let's just get right into it. First of all, her kits. We are going to be compare most of her kits with Luka's kits. Her Ascension Trace makes her a better character compared to Luka because she can just use her basic attacks to apply burn for 2 turns, while Luka needs to use his skill to apply bleed. This means that in some situations you can conserve more skill points with Guinaifen. Besides that, her skill also applies AoE burn for 2 turns to the main target and 2 adjacent targets, unlike Luka who can only apply bleed to 1 target with 1 skill point. This is also another aspect in how she can conserve more skill points compared to Luka. Her burn dot multiplier is lower than Sampo's Wind Shear at 5 stacks and also Luka's bleed, but she makes up for this with her talent by applying a debuff called Firekiss when enemies take damage from her burns. Firekiss increases damage received by the enemies and at E0 can stack 3 times and lasts for 3 turns. The damage increase is huge. At 3 stacks at E0 level 10 talent, it increases damage received by 21%, potentially up to 3 different targets if Guinaifen uses her skill, while Luka can only apply a debuff that increases damage received by 20% to a single target with his ultimate. With this in mind, we know that Guinaifen's application of Firekiss and the damage received debuff is pretty much going to have a 100% uptime, while Luka's debuff will only last for 3 turns and require Luka to use another ultimate to reapply the debuff to only 1 enemy. Lastly, Guinaifen's ultimate is also able to force and prot the burn she applied, but this is similar to Luka's enhanced basic attacks. With most of her damage coming from her burn dot, it's quite obvious how she fits really well into Kafka's dot team. Before Guinaifen's release, Kafka can be played with Luka and Sampo for a mass damage team. With Guinaifen though, she can actually replace Luka and even performs better than Luka in terms of team damage after factoring in the Firekiss debuff. Let's take a look at the damage comparisons. I will only be highlighting some interesting points from this damage comparison table. At E0 Guinaifen with max Firekiss stacks and her A6 unlocked, her dot deals this much attack per tick, while an E0 Luka's dot deals this much attack per tick. From dot damage alone, Luka comes out on top, but the Firekiss's 21% damage received debuff with 100% uptime will also apply to Sampo's dot, Kafka's dot, Sampo's skill damage, and also Kafka's skill damage. The debuff is more than enough to make up for the smaller dot damage. At E2, Guinaifen's burn damage multiplier is increased by 40%, and with the Firekiss debuff, her dot deals this much attack per tick, while an E2 Luka still deals the same dot damage. This already makes Guinaifen look much stronger. Luka does receive a huge upgrade at E3 with his skill level upgraded by 2 levels, increasing his dot to this much attack per tick, but Firekiss more than makes up for this difference. The huge power spike for Guinaifen is at E6 when Firekiss can stack up to 4 times, increasing damage received by 30.4%. This is only from Firekiss alone and not taking into account her AoE burn compared to Luka's single target bleed. She is also much more SP efficient than Luka for multiple targets because her skill apply burn to multiple targets at once. With this in mind, it's quite obvious that she's the better choice. She's more efficient in dealing dot damage and she is also more SP efficient. The only thing I would say that stands out from Luka's kit is that he can dispel the buff from an enemy. Now, some of you might be wondering if Kafka can be played with Guinaifen and Luka instead of Sampo, especially if you have already upgraded Luka. I would say it's possible, but Sampo is just a more solid unit to dish out damage compared to both Luka or Guinaifen. I would say that the bulk of the damage dealt from Sampo is from his skill, especially at E1 and E6 where he gains 1 more skill damage tick and increases in his wind shear damage multiplier. You can take a look at this table to compare the skill damage from Sampo, Luka, and Guinaifen. Ideally, in a Kafka, Sampo, and Guinaifen team, you want to spam Kafka's skill as much as possible for the dot procs and Sampo's skill as much as possible with his insanely high skill damage multiplier. Guinaifen can also apply burn through basic attacks, but if needed, she's also flexible enough that you can use her SP occasionally if you need to apply burn to multiple targets at once, something that is lacking from Luka. Another interesting point is that Guinaifen being SP positive by being able to apply Firekiss debuff through just basic attacks is that she is also a solid unit in a non-dot team, like a Hypercarry team as a debuffer. Similar to how Pela works, she increases the damage received by enemies. The difference though, in my opinion, is that Pela can defense shred AoE with 100% uptime with her ultimate, while a Guinaifen using only basic attacks can only apply 100% uptime of Firekiss to one enemy. But you can arguably say that Guinaifen can make up for this by dealing higher damage with a higher damage multiplier compared to Pela. The point is, Guinaifen is more flexible compared to Sampo and Luka, such that she doesn't have to be played in a dot team. As for Guinaifen's light cone build, it's the standard Fermata, Eyes of the Prey, or Goodnight Sleep Well, depending on which light cone you can have and spare. As for her Relic, the best combi damage-wise would be the 2-piece Firesmith of Lava Forging for fire damage increase and 2-piece Musketeer for the extra attack percentage. You can substitute one of the 2-piece with Messenger as well if you need to squeeze some extra speed for an extra turn or two on Guinaifen. For her planar ornament, Space Sealing Station is best for damage, and Fleet of the Ageless is also solid to buff her teammates' attack percentage and also giving her some HP to sustain better. All in all, I would say that Guinaifen can solidly replace Luka in most situations. The only situation where Luka will come ahead is when it's absolutely crucial to dispel debuff. You can usually get by even without buff dispel though in the current MOC stages, and in my opinion, Guinaifen's ability to increase enemies' vulnerability is a very good kit. Not only that, but she can also be flexed in a Hypercarry team and still perform decently, which is not an option present for Sampo or Luka. She's a great pull and her power spikes at E2 and E6. That's all I have for today's video. Subscribe for more and let me know what you want me to discuss next.